Hi, how are you?
Hi there. I'm doing well, thank you. How about you?
Not bad. I was thinking, can we have a good chat?
Sure. What kind of chat would you like to have?
See how you can get this script into working. Um, First of all, I have put all the details, or rather the script and the supporting files, into a Git repository, so you can find it in this location, and just get the files. And it's not much. You just pretty much need the one of these scripts, and obviously the memory.txt and the keys.txt, which I will show you that we need to rename and add your keys into it, as in the OpenAPI key and the Azure cognitive services keys. So the first thing is that get it copied into your local machine, and obviously you need to have Python installed, and you need to have an API key from the OpenAPI. That's the one that you would connect the script into the kind of a language model. In this case, OpenAPI is a DaVinci model. And then for the voice recognition and the text to speech part, you would using the Azure Cognitive Services speech service in particular. For that, you need to get an API. Both these can be you can get them freely, and there are limitations with the free, of course, but that's good enough for you to use on your daily basis. um, and then you need to have these libraries also installed into Python, and that's about it. So let's quickly go into the script. So once you have it in your local machine, you would see there would be two scripts, but eventually you just need one. It's just that I had two iterations of the same. So the first one, I'll just first run it. It doesn't need to have any Azure connection. It just connects to the open API, as in you can type your questions, and you can get a response, a text-based response from that, and obviously you can continue the conversation like that. And then what I have done was I improved it further to connect, or rather get the input through a voice, through voice recognition, and then the response would be um, converted into voice again. For that, I am using the Azure Cognitive Suite service. So after you can get your API keys, you need to open this file, and then obviously copy these information, the open API key here, Azure API key, and the Azure endpoint and the region. I'm also giving you some other YouTube links which actually shows you how to get an open API key and how to get an Azure key, and it's pretty much out there. You can also look it up in elsewhere, but there are a couple of good links that I'm just showing. It's not mine, but they are good enough and very short videos. And then let's jump into the second script which I've improved. So after you update the keys file, or keys underscore text, you need to rename it to keys, because that's the one will be taken into your file, or else you can just rename here underscore one, so that it will take from this itself. So then the keys would be taken into the script, and then I'm defining the OpenAPI's model, what I'm going to use. Here I'm using DaVinci 3, which is the most powerful in the GPT, I think, Open GPT 3 3.5 versions. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's GPT-3. This is the same thing I think they are using for ChatGPT also. There are another three versions. They are faster, but not as powerful as this. And in this case, I'm using this one, but you can change this if you want to the other models. So you would see the other models when you go to the OpenAPI key website. When you get the key, you can actually look it up, and then you get the model name there. The then I in here I have like defined few functions. This one is actually so yeah, this is the one that connects to these two actually connects to the Azure service, and this particular one will take my voice and convert it into text, and then pretty much convert sends take my voice, take it to the Azure service, and then convert it into text. And then this one, the other way around, it takes a text and convert back to a voice. Obviously in this case I'm using a voice that is defined there. And when you go into the Azure service, into their documents, you would see that you can choose and this voice. There are a number of voices that you can use. So in my case I just use this, and this is a female voice, but you can use a male voice, or any particular voice that has certain accents, like Italian accents, or I don't know, there were a lot. It's just too much sometimes. It's overwhelming what you're going to choose also. Anyway, so these are the two functions that does it, the conversion of the voice part. And then of course, to connect to the GPT also, I've used this function. And then I'm using all of that in a while loop to get the input, and then pass it through to GPT, get a response, and then convert it back to voice. Now I've done a little trick here, that when we have a conversation with GPT, obviously it sends a response, but in order to make the conversation more meaningful, of course, you need to have the history. Like, the conversation needs to be built as in with the previous the discussion or the dialogue's context. So basically it's like this. Let me open the memory text and show you. So for example, now if, let's say, I'm starting with how are you, right? And then it gives an answer. Okay, this may not be the better example, but let's see. So let's say you're asking a question, and then it gives an answer, but it needs to have a context of that conversation into the next one, so that that conversation becomes meaningful. So the problem is, well, you could do that within the code itself, but GPT only would only take a token size of 2000 into one prompt. So you cannot always give its context from the previous and build it up. So to overcome this, I have created I'm actually sending a prompt summarize from by looking into the earlier conversations, and I'm creating a memory text file in order to store the history, so that even after I shut down the script and bring it up, it will have some memory of the previous conversations it had. So you would see this when we are running through the files, say so in this, obviously I'm actually running the functions. So you first get an input, and then you send it to the GPT. You get a response back, and then I print the response and I convert that response into voice, right? So this is pretty much it. That's only what it's doing. It's just that the services actually converts and reads and responds. The code only just pass through what is being read. Then here I'm printing the token size, and this is where I'm trying to summarize. Say, let's say the previous conversation, if it runs over 900 tokens, then I'm sending the prompt, another prompt to GPT with the context that I had, and saying, as I am saying this is a dialogue between AI and myself. Can you summarize it into 500 words? And the response, when it comes back, whatever the number of lines that we had, it'll bring it down to 500 words, i.e., roughly around 500 tokens. So then what happens is, every time when it reaches 900 tokens, it'll bring it down to 500, so that it will never surpass this 2000 mark. So my conversation history is actually summarized and continued. That's how I'm trying to keep the conversation going. Okay, so then obviously I write that into the file, which is the file that I will be reading when I start the conversation. Let's say when I start it, kind of stop the script and then start it again, it'll have that memory. So like that, these are the conversations I had previously, which actually had the file. So what happens is, if this context, the entire file, if it goes above 900 tokens, it'll then summarize that and put it into something like this. Okay, so that's about it. So let's run it and see how it works. And right, oh sorry, I was running the iteration 1. Try to run the script and see how it works. Let's try this. Hi, how are you?
Hi there. I'm doing great, thank you for asking. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, thank you. I'd like to have a good conversation about hobbies, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Let's talk about our hobbies. What do you enjoy doing in your free time?
I'd like to keep bees, if that counts as a hobby.
That definitely counts as a hobby. Beekeeping can be a fun and rewarding experience. Have you done any research into how to get started with beekeeping?
Oh yes, lots of research before that, but mostly it starts on its own once you start with the colony of bees.
Interesting. Keeping bees does require a great deal of preparation and research, but once you get the colony of bees, things can start to really progress. What else have you been looking into?
Well, nothing much, but how about you? Do you have any hobbies?
Yes, I am passionate about exploring new technologies and applications. Recently, I've been looking into the potential of blockchain technology and how it can be used in the business world. It's quite fascinating. What about you? Do you have any hobbies or interests that you're interested in?
Really? Did you actually research about blockchains? What do you learn about them?
Yes, I did some research into how blockchain technology works and the potential it has in the business world. Blockchain is a revolutionary technology that stores data in a distributed network of computers which can then be used to securely store data, execute complex transactions, and track assets. It's a game changer for many industries and businesses, allowing for secure data transmission and trustless transactions. What about you? What have you been up to lately?
Nothing much. I'm sure this is a fascinating topic, but I don't know much about it, so I don't think so. I don't think I can talk about that.
That's okay. There's no need to feel pressure to know about something, especially when it's such a complex and rapidly evolving topic. We can just chat about anything else, life, current events, hobbies, or whatever else comes to mind. We may even come back to talking about blockchain later if you're curious.
Seems like you're interested in blockchains a lot.
Yes, I find it a fascinating subject and I'm inspired by the potential it has. It's also exciting to see how quickly the technology is evolving and the various applications it's now being used in. Have you heard of any other exciting new technologies recently?
Not really. I think it's getting too late, so let's end this conversation now, if that's okay.
That sounds good. It was great talking with you about hobbies, current events, and blockchain technology. Take care and have a good night.
Good night.